Hey there, my fellow aviation enthusiasts. My name is Trent, and if you haven't seen one of my videos before, I am a certified flight instructor, and I spend a lot of hours in the cockpit teaching students how to fly airplanes. And today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today we're going to be reviewing the Moza MH16 flight stick and its force feedback base, which I'll be showing a little later in the video. And so Moza reached out to me because obviously my channel is about aviation, and I am a big proponent of having my students use Microsoft Flight Simulator to supplement their training, because all of the things that you can practice in Flight Simulator can be quite effective, and you don't have to pay nearly the hourly rate to rent an instructor and to rent an aircraft and so forth. So with that said, let's dive into this. And I want to give you a little bit of background before we dive into the review of the product. I've been a flight simmer for many, many years. Have a pretty nice rig that you'll see later in the video. It's also a race car rig, and it's a full motion rig, and the steering wheel for the race car has force feedback, but I've never had force feedback on a flight yoke before. And what Moza has done is really nothing short of incredible, because they've come out with what I consider to be an extremely high quality product at a price that is far, far less than many of their competitors. So if you're interested in adding force feedback to your rig without wanting to break the budget, then keep watching this video, because I think you're really going to like what you see. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the stick. So as you can see, it is very, very similar to the Thrustmaster HOTUS Warthog stick, with the exception of this little bank of buttons right here. And I have had the Thrustmaster HOTUS stick for quite a number of years and have always enjoyed it. But what, of course, is missing is the springs are fairly light, so there's no feedback in the stick. In terms of quality and feel, the way it feels in your hand, Moza has done a phenomenal job. This is all metal. The base is all metal. The base is super heavy. It weighs somewhere around 10 or 15 pounds because of all that force feedback motor that's in it. But this feels like stuff that's going to last for a very long time. Has all of the same buttons as the HOTUS throttle stick, rather, with the exception of these here. We've got some extra ones. These are maybe something to do with a helicopter. I'm not really a helicopter guy, so I don't know. But this is another D-pad here, and this one is a toggle switch that goes up and down. All of the rest of them are the same as what you'd expect, and they were even kind enough, I don't think you can see it there, to put labels on the top of the stick for what all of those are. So what we're going to do next is we're going to jump in. I'm going to show you the software that runs the force feedback. Actually, I'm going to show you the base, then I'm going to show you the software, and then we're going to hop into Flight Simulator, where I've got a camera on the stick itself, and I'm sharing my screen so you can see what the aircraft is doing, and then you can see and hear me talk about what the stick is doing relative to what the aircraft's doing, and I think you're going to find out that it's pretty darn cool. So this is what the unit looks like. It probably weighs, I don't know what this thing weighs, but my guess is somewhere around 10 pounds, maybe 15 pounds or so. It's pretty beefy. I'm looking forward to getting it connected and trying it out. So the first thing that we want to do is look at the Moza software, and by their own confession, this software is a work in progress. So you can see here we've got a variety of games that the Moza software is compatible with, and DCS World, they have all sorts of presets available. And now for Microsoft Flight Simulator, at the time of this filming, there are 4 presets available. We're going to choose the Cessna 172. And so then how this is driven currently with Microsoft Flight Simulator is from telemetry. At some point in the future, that may change and be altered to pull the data or pull the feedback right from the game. But at this point in time, it is telemetry force feedback. And you can see here that there are a number of attributes that are adjustable. And then if we go into telemetry force feedback, there's all sorts of things that are adjustable. So you can adjust G-force, you can adjust your stall buffet, you can have elevator droop, you can have damage effect, flat motion, gear buffet, gear motion, ground vibration, spoiler motion, turbulence, and so forth. And then over here, you've got propeller rumble, angle of attack, force effect, speed sensitive of controls, and that's happened. All of that is configurable for propeller aircraft, then for jet aircraft, and also for helicopters. In my review, because I don't really fly helicopters much, I'm going to restrict my review to that of a fixed wing propeller driven aircraft. So we've got the software configured, we have got all the things turned on that we want. So now let's go hop into the plane and go for a little flight. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to notice is how at a low RPM, how the joystick is just shaking as you would expect that it would do at a low RPM. And you're able to adjust the intensity of that shake, which is really, really cool, to be honest with you. You're able to adjust the intensity of that shake in the software itself. And then as RPM increases, I'm not sure if my throttle is on in camera here, but you can see how the shake significantly decreases. All right, let's go up and do a little bit of flying and see how it feels. So all of the ground vibrations are from the runway, and the wheels are currently being passed into the joystick. We're building airspeed here. We're at 35, 38 knots. Rotation speed for this 172 is 55 knots. So we're running on a runway real quick, but here we go. Off the ground we come. Work on adding a little bit of trim, just as you would do in the real aircraft. And as I add trim, I can start releasing the back pressure on the stick, and the trim is going to hold the nose of the aircraft up. So you can't really see it in the video very well, but I am receiving constant feedback in the stick, just as you would expect to do in the real aircraft, which is exceptionally cool, I might add. So instead of just having a dead stick that doesn't feel anything, this one is, you can see it's kind of vibrating here as we're doing what we're doing. All right, so the first thing we're going to try is a power on stall and just see how that feels. So nose up, full power, seeing that airspeed bleed off. There's the stall horn, there's a shake, and there's the recovery. So that wasn't bad. When one wing dropped, I absolutely felt that quite significantly in the yoke. So now let's try a power off stall. So power back to idle. And we'll just pull that nose up ever so slightly. Watch that airspeed bleed off. There's a stall horn, which you can't hear because I've got the volume pretty low. A lot of stick shake. Buffet just like you'd be getting in the real plane, which is cool. So now let's test out that speed effect. So we'll nose it down, get rid of some of that trim. I'm already pretty close to the lake, but that's okay. We'll go lower and see if we can build up some speed. And I want to see if pulling back on the yoke at higher speeds. I'm going to run out of altitude here real quick, but we're doing 120. Much faster than before. So now let's pull up the nose. And see, this is one of the areas where it's not doing what I would expect. Normally, in a real aircraft, when you've got all that velocity, you would expect to have to pull back harder on the stick. All right, so now let's head back to the airport, come in for a landing, because I want to show you something else that's really, really cool. And the other thing too, you'll notice, so I've got live weather turned on right now, and there is turbulence. You can see the plane bobbing around, and very, very little of that turbulence is being passed to the aircraft. So what we'll do is we're just going to pull up the software, and let's go over here to turbulence, and let's increase it to 60%, and let's come back into flight sim, and we'll see if we can feel any of that turbulence. Not a huge change. So with this much turbulence, you can see the plane's really bouncing around. The stick should be doing more than what it's doing. It's not nothing, it's not zero, but it's definitely not the level of turbulence that I would expect. Okay, so we're coming in for a landing. I'm going to start slowing the plane down, adding the first notch of flaps below 110, and we'll look to get below 85 to add our second notch of flaps. We're at 89, power to idle, and there's 85, so there's the second notch, and we'll add the third notch right away and see if we can't bring it in for a landing so I can demonstrate something to you which I thought was exceptionally cool. Rather than do a smooth landing with a round out and a flare like you would normally expect to do, I'm going to kind of pound it into the ground on purpose. So here we go. And if you watch the stick, you can see there that there was a significant movement in that stick, and I actually crashed the plane. All right, so my final thoughts on the Moza M816 flight stick with its force feedback base is I'm pretty darn impressed. It took especially when you're in VR on a full motion platform like I have, having shake in the stick took the immersion up yet another level. So if you like flying airplanes as much as I do, but you don't always want to go and spend the money to fly real ones, instead you've got a cockpit, this is something that I would wholeheartedly recommend you add to your sim. As I mentioned earlier on, the software, the hardware is already extremely well developed. The software, by Moza's own confession, is a work in progress, and so there is going to, it's already pretty good, to be honest with you, but not everything, as I showed in the video. There's not all the things that are being passed into the stick that I would expect them to do and to feel. So I would expect that over the coming weeks and months ahead, that's going to only get better and better and better, and you're going to be happier and happier with your investment in this particular product, especially given the quality and what they've been able to deliver for the price point that they are delivering it. So thank you very much for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those for me down below. And if you are someone who flies airplanes in the real world and you're middle-aged and you're thinking of maybe becoming an airline pilot, you might want to check out some of the other videos on my channel, because I was able to go from private pilot to a conditional job offer in hand, private pilot with 100 hours, to conditional job offer in hand from the U.S.'s largest regional airline in just 13 months, which I think is probably record time. And I share the whole story here on the channel of how I did that and how I saved so much money. So if that's of interest to you, I encourage you to watch some of my other videos. All right, everybody, thanks very much for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day, and we'll see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.